In the vast, open plains of Ukraine, where drones buzz like metallic insects and artillery echoes through abandoned towns, a different kind of hero has risen. She is not a mythical warrior, nor a figure from ancient legends. She is a real woman, 35 years old, soft-spoken, determined, and relentless. Her name is Daria, and this is the story of how she became the commander of Ukraine's first all-female attack drone unit. A military revolution born from war, resilience, and courage. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, millions of lives were thrown into chaos. But for Daria, that day was not just about surviving an invasion. It became the moment she decided to stop being a spectator of history and instead shape it with her own hands. Before the war, she lived an ordinary civilian life. She worked in marketing, promoting baby products, managing clients, crunching numbers. There was no sign in her daily routine that one day she would be responsible for guiding explosive armed drones into enemy targets with deadly precision. Yet deep down, something in her was always ready. She had already completed volunteer sniper training in earlier years, and she had received battlefield first aid and tactical instruction, almost as if preparing herself for a day she hoped would never come. When the invasion began, Daria was not afraid. She was angry. Her hometown in the Kherson region had fallen under occupation. Friends, neighbors, and familiar streets were suddenly surrounded by foreign soldiers. That loss, the loss of home, changed her forever. She walked into a recruitment office in Kiev and volunteered to defend her country. But instead of being treated as a fighter, she was judged on her appearance. The men in the office looked at her blonde hair, her calm expression, and the first aid kit she carried, and they assumed she was only fit to be a medic. Combat roles, they insisted, were not for women, not for someone like her. But Daria refused to accept no. She refused to be placed in the background of a war that was destroying her homeland. She wanted to fight, not patch wounds. She wanted to confront the enemy, not wait behind the lines. Her words were simple but powerful. I will not be a victim, I will be a predator. And with that mindset, she kept returning, kept training, kept learning. For months, she pushed against an outdated system that tried to keep women away from combat. Eventually, the war itself changed the rules. Ukraine needed skilled fighters, not stereotypes. And modern warfare, dominated by drones and unmanned systems, opened a doorway women could finally step through. Drone warfare does not care about gender. It rewards discipline, intelligence, calmness, technical skill, and the ability to make life-or-death decisions in seconds. And Daria excelled in every one of those qualities. That is how she found her place in the National Guard's Unmanned Systems program, and how she eventually became the commander of a completely new and unprecedented experiment, an all-female combat drone crew. The unit was given a name, Typhoon, a name that symbolized power, motion, and unstoppable force. The idea was radical. Never before had Ukraine placed a team of women in charge of launching attack drones in active battle zones. Never before had women been entrusted with this level of offensive capability, not as supporters, not as assistants, but as the ones pulling the trigger. When the army first suggested forming an all-female team, Daria hesitated. She did not want to be a political symbol. She did not want to be treated as a special project. She wanted equality, not attention. But then she realized something deeper. If this unit succeeded, it would open the door for thousands of women. It would destroy old prejudices that had kept women out of combat for generations. It would prove with real evidence that bravery and skill are not limited by gender. And so she accepted the challenge. Typhoon began training with minimal equipment and makeshift shelters. They slept in freezing trenches, carried their own gear, repaired their own vehicles, and built their own drone platforms in workshops made from scrap metal and salvaged electronics. These women were not handed anything. They earned everything. Their first major mission would become the moment the world learned their name. On a gray, windswept morning, with the temperature dropping and the battlefield stretching silently before them, the crew launched a modified FPV drone loaded with explosives. The target was a Russian howitzer, a powerful artillery weapon that had been pounding Ukrainian positions for days. Daria and her operator watched the drone's camera feed as it flew low over the ground, weaving between trees, dodging enemy fire, and accelerating toward the artillery position. And then impact. A bright eruption. The howitzer was destroyed. The mission was a success carried out entirely by a team of women. That one strike sent shockwaves through the military leadership. Not because women had fought. Ukraine had over 70,000 women serving in various roles, but because these women had done what many believed only elite male teams could do. They had outperformed expectations. They had demonstrated cold precision under pressure. They had shown that they could plan, move, attack, and execute missions with flawless discipline, and now they were unstoppable. Daria's leadership became the heart of Typhoon. Calm, analytical, often appearing emotionless but deeply committed to her team. She learned to drive armored vehicles. She learned to navigate forests and destroyed towns at night. She learned how to relocate quickly before the enemy could trace their drone signals. Every mission carried risk. Drone operators are high-value targets. The Russians hunt them using their own drones, artillery, and scouting units. But Daria never backed down. She often told her team, "Fear is natural, but control is our weapon." Behind every mission is a quiet moment that the world never sees. Daria and her team gather around a monitor inside a dugout or an abandoned cottage. The operator steadies the drone on the screen. The navigator calculates distance. The mechanic confirms the batteries and motors. Then the commander Daria gives a simple order: launch. There is no shouting, no chaos, only focus, only clarity, and as the drone leaves the ground, each woman watches silently, knowing that their decisions in the next few minutes could determine the fate of soldiers miles away. Despite their effectiveness, Typhoon faced constant skepticism. Social media comments, local rumors, even soldiers who had not yet worked with them would sometimes question whether women should be doing this. Yet each successful mission silenced those voices. Respect replaced doubt. Working with them became an honor. By 2025, women in Ukraine were taking on more than 5,000 direct combat roles, a revolution that units like Typhoon helped make possible. Daria herself never sought fame. She dislikes being photographed. She refuses to share her full name publicly for safety reasons. Her goal was never to become a face of women's empowerment, but she undeniably became one. She represents the modern female soldier, technical, strategic, emotionally resilient, and capable of making decisions that can alter the course of battles. Her story is not one of glamour. It is a story built from cold mornings, sleepless nights, lost friends, destroyed cities, and relentless determination. It is built from the belief that defending one's homeland is not limited to any gender. It is a story thousands of women across Ukraine now share. And yet Daria stands out not because she is the only brave woman, but because she symbolizes an entire movement. Over time, Typhoon developed a reputation for accuracy and discipline. Soldiers on the front began requesting them by their call sign, saying, "If Typhoon is on your side, you have a chance." Their missions saved countless Ukrainian lives by eliminating artillery positions, ammunition depots, and enemy vehicles long before they could strike Ukrainian troops. Their work was not glamorous, but it was essential. In interviews, Daria often speaks softly, with a thoughtful tone that contrasts sharply with the violence she deals with. She talks about her team with pride. She talks about their unity, their sisterhood, their fierce loyalty to one another. She talks about their desire to protect the men on the front lines, many of whom were surprised to learn that the drone operator defending them was a woman. She also speaks about the pain about comrades lost, about missions that went wrong, about the toll stress takes on every soldier. Yet she never shows regret. Her philosophy is simple. We are here because someone must do this. If not us, who? She believes that every strike they make, every mission they complete, brings her country one step closer to survival, one step closer to victory. And in the bigger picture, her impact goes beyond war. She has broken barriers that held women back for decades. She proved that equal ability deserves equal opportunity. She inspired young girls across Ukraine who now see courage not as a male trait, but as a human one. She taught the world that women, when given a chance, can redefine battlefields. As the war continues, the future of Ukraine and of Daria remains uncertain. But what is certain is this: her story will not be forgotten. She has become a symbol of modern bravery, of resistance, of skill, and of change. She has shown that heroism does not always carry a sword or wear a cape. Sometimes heroism sits in a cold trench, holding a drone controller, watching a grainy screen, and making decisions that protect an entire nation. This is Daria's story, the story of a woman who refused to stand in the background, the story of a leader who rose from ordinary life into extraordinary purpose, the story of a fighter who turned technology into a weapon of defense, and the story of a pioneer who proved that bravery has no gender. This is Women in Bravery, and this is only the beginning.